So let's talk about XML first because XPath is actually XML path. XPath's full form is XML path, and what is the full form of XML? Let's not go into that. But basically, whenever there were two different systems, for example, one system is written in Java, one system is written in C Sharp, and they need to communicate with each other and transfer information. So, for example, let's say that we need to transfer information related to a book, then there has to be some common standard which both of these system can understand. So that's how this XML came into picture. So this is just one example. Things are a little bit more complex, but let's say that this was one of the examples. So C sharp code will convert its class, its data, whatever it has to send into XML, a common standard agreed upon, and then another system which will read this information and convert into its own objects and basically consume that information. So XML was the way of writing any object into text. Now that standard has changed, and these days what you see is a JSON. So a JavaScript object notation. So those files are smaller and more efficient. So XPath XML is becoming less and less common, and JSON is almost everywhere now. So this this XPath was written to find information from an XML. So this is one example of XML. So if you look at the XML, so the basic structure of a simple XML is like that on the top you have some information related to what kind of XML it is. For example, this is version 1.0. This complies to version 1.0 of XML standards, and it has UTF-8 encoding. And after this initial information, you have the actual XML. So this is a bookstore. So this is the root node or root node element, right? And inside that there is a book. Inside book there is title. So this relation is the bookstore has a child book. The book has a child title. In fact, the book has three children: title, author, year, and price. So it makes it four. And if you go into a little bit more detail, now this attribute is counted separately, but let's keep it simple. So the title is actually a child of book, and book is a child of bookstore. So if we can find this title, we can go up to find the parent, or we can look at its brothers and sisters or siblings. So this is the basic terminology. And if you look at HTML, now this HTML is pretty much same standard. So if you look at any HTML, it will have some doc type declaration. So which is effectively saying that what kind of standard this HTML is following. And then we have some elements which are, so for example, HTML element as head element as is child, and this title element as is child. HTML has another child which is body, which has h2 as its child. So typically they are more or less the same structure. Now remember that the HTML sometimes will not be perfect. For example, if I have to put a line break here, I can just write like this. It is a valid HTML, but it is not a valid XML anymore. So whatever parser you are using, if you are using request and beautiful soup and you are using LXML, then it will do some assumptions. It will actually change this so that it is converted into valid XML. If you're using, so basically depending on the parser, this modification will be slightly different. So sometimes you will see that what you are getting from XPath is slightly different than what you see when you look at the source code. But anyway, those things are very rare. So let's start from a simple example. Now I'm going to remove this and let's keep it very, very simple. Okay, let's remove everything. Let's keep it very simple and let's have a paragraph. This is a paragraph. All right. So now we have a very simple HTML. Let's say that we want to select this root element HTML. So what we need to do is we need to just put single slash and then write HTML. So in the bottom you can see that the complete HTML tag has been selected. But I cannot do the same thing for head. If I write it for head, it will not work. Why it will not work? Because single slash means the root element. So root element is not head, it is HTML. So it will work for HTML. So how do I get the head? So there are two ways. Number one, I can follow the hierarchy. So the head is child of HTML, so I can look for HTML. Then I put a slash and I write like this. So this is one way of doing it, right? So I am creating the typical hierarchy. So now if I put a slash title, I will reach the title element. So what I'm doing here is I'm not skipping anything. This is a very simple. Start with root, look for HTML, inside root, look for a child head, inside head, look for another child, which is title. So this is the simplest possible XPath that you can write. But typically you will not see something like this. Typically what you will see is double slash title. So what is this double slash? This double slash is go and look for title elements across entire HTML. So what we are doing here is whenever we are doing double slash, we are doing a search, right? So if we do double slash p, we are looking for a paragraph tag. Now if we have more than one paragraph, this is another paragraph, and then we write double slash p, it will return both the paragraphs. So this double slash will find and return everything. So wherever there is a p element, it will go and it will find it. So that is the purpose of double slash, which I am assuming that even if you have seen even little bit of XML or a little bit of XPath, you already know. So now let's look for something else. Let's go a little bit advanced. Okay. So these are called element and this is called attribute. So what if I want to find this anchor tag? I can write like that, double slash anchor tag, and I will get anchor. Thank you, Tesh. Please stick around, and if you have any questions, you can ask. So I want this to be interactive. So if you have, let's go through the basic concepts first. And if you have any specific links or any place wherever you want to extract the XPath, we can find out. But that we will do towards the end of the stream. In the beginning, let's cover the concepts. So if I want to, let's create one more anchor tag here. All right. And this one, let's say it goes to Google. I'm just writing, I know that this is not valid. This link is not valid. But right now, what you can see is it is going and looking for this anchor tag and this anchor tag. But what if I want to select the anchor tags which are only under H2? I don't want to select this. I want to find only the anchor tags which are under H2. So what I'll do, I'll look for H2 first. Now how do I look for H2? See, either I can write the complete XPath, I can write slash HTML slash body slash h2. So I can say slash HTML slash body slash h2. Now I have h2, and then I can say slash a. So what I'm doing here is I'm writing the complete path, right? And here you can see that this is, let's put something here which makes it easier, nested inside h2. All right, and I need to, now this site is actually JavaScript based, so I have to make some change here and it will evaluate the path. So what it is doing here is it's going to HTML, it's going to body, then it's going to h2, and then it is looking for this a, and it is selecting this a element. And if I want to select this a, I have to look for element which is inside body, right? So this I need to remove, and I have this one. Now the other approach is, what I can do is I can look for all the h2 tags. Now blindly, now I have skipped HTML and body, so I'm looking for all h2. That's why I'm looking for, I have started the XPath build double slash, and then I'm looking for a tag which is inside h2, right? Now if there is a slash, it will only look for a direct child, it will not look for anything other than that. So let me explain this by example. So I'm modifying this. Okay, so there is this, and inside h2 there is, let's say there is some div, and we need to close this div to make it valid HTML, a valid HTML and valid XML as well. Now this a is inside div and slash a. Now this time if I look for, now pay very close attention to what is happening here. If I'm looking for double slash a, right? So let me see if I can zoom in. Yeah. So what I'm doing is I'm looking for double slash a here. Okay. So I'm looking for double slash a. So it is searching for this double slash a, this double slash h2. And after that, note that this one is a single slash a. So single slash means child. It doesn't mean grandchildren. Okay. So the slash is children, double slash is grandchildren, and even inside that, if there is something else, it will go and select. So this is something which you have to be careful about. So this is a common mistake that I have seen. Okay, just a second, I need to put my phone on silent. Yeah. So double slash means go and look for all the descendant. It's not about, see, there is children, there is grandchildren, there is great grandchildren, there is great grandchildren. It can be element nested inside element, it doesn't matter. If you write double slash, it will go and look everywhere. If you write single slash, it will go and look for only the immediate children, right? So if I put just a single slash here, it's getting me only the direct child. So only this element is being fetched, because this is not direct child. This is actually grandchildren, grandchild. If I format it like this, probably now it's easier. So h2 has a and div. It doesn't have a. This a's parent is a div, right? So in XPath terms, it's all these like children, grandchildren, great grandchildren, great grandchildren. These are called descendant. So slash slash will look for all the descendant, right? So I hope this slash and double slash concept is clear. Now let's go and look for something else. Let's go and look for one more interesting thing. Okay. So what I'm going to do is let me type it out and then explain what is happening. In fact, here it is going to be a little bit difficult. Uh, just give me a second. All right, I'll come to that later. So actually, later on, I will show you how to chain different pieces of XPath. At that time, I will show you the usefulness of dot slash. So dot slash is something useful, and dot dot is something useful. So all these things I will talk little bit later. In fact, I can talk about dot dot right now. So now what we are doing is we are looking for double slash A. So all the anchor tags, wherever there is anchor tag, this has been selected and we get all three results. Now what if I put slash and dot dot? Now what I'm doing, dot dot. So this is where you can think very much like, so for example, here if I put cd dot, nothing will happen. So because cd dot means current directory, but cd dot dot will mean parent directory, right? Again, cd dot dot means parent directory. So here in DWS psychologist, if I do cd dot dot, it will go one level up. Similarly, in XPath, if I write slash a dot dot, it will go one level up. It will first look for all the anchor tags. So in the first example here, if you look here, it looked for this anchor tag and then it went up and looked for H2, right? So here is the H2, and inside H2, there are a lot of other things and it has selected everything. Here in the second case, so this is the first case actually. Let's dig in. It's not actually in sequence right now. The results are not in the sequence, but you're getting the idea, I hope, right? So this anchor, its parent is H2. So this H2 is selected here. This anchor's parent is body. So here it has selected the whole body. And where is the, sorry about my throat, it's giving me problem, but anyway. And this anchor tag, its parent is div. So here it has selected the div. So that's how a dot is important. In fact, let me show you one more trick here. So let's say that, okay, it will become very confusing. So let's leave it at now. So now let's talk about attributes. So what are attributes? So this is an attribute. Inside these angled bracket, this whole angled bracket thing is one element. So this element is actually starting from here and ending here. And in this href equal to hash. Now this href is attribute. Okay. So this href, this is attribute and this is attributes value. So let's put one more attribute so it can have id equal to, let's say, first, and it can have even more than that. It can have class equal to what do we call it, anchor. So now this anchor tag has actually three different attributes. So now what if we want to get the attributes of this anchor tag? So whenever we want to work with the attributes, all we have to do is we have to treat them. Actually, attributes are, in fact, they are considered as nodes. So in XML, you will hear this node, hear this term node. So this one, for example, is element node, and this is attribute node. So if you want to select the value of this attribute, what we have to do is we have to treat it like an element. So all elements we have to search using slash. So inside A, we are looking for something. And what we are looking for? We are looking for href. Okay. But if we are looking for some attribute, we have to prefix with @. So now what we are getting here? All the anchor tag which have an attribute href. So this anchor tag does not have an href, so that's why this was not selected, and whatever is the value of href, that is shown here. All right. Similarly, if you want to look at this text, so this text is actually contained inside this let's call it just text. Okay, so let's not go into the technical terms, but let's call it text. So if you want to get the text, in that case text is not an attribute, right? It's not part of the opening and closing this part. So whatever is inside it, that is attribute, but this is not an attribute, this is text. So this you can extract using XPath function. So slash text. So whenever you see opening and closing bracket, know that this is a function. So this is XPath function text, and this you can use to extract the information which is inside. Hello to Indonesia and welcome to this live stream, and again to you as well, that if you have any questions specific to any XPath that you're trying to build, we'll take it towards the end of the stream. How to crawl data in iframe using scrapy? Yes, we'll cover that. So let's take it later. Today let's stick to XPath. So this text can be extracted using this opening and closing square brackets, and if it is an attribute, we have to use @, and then href can be extracted using href. Now this one is id, so this can be extracted using id. We want class, okay, we can extract using class, just like that, right? So far fun. Now let's do something else. Let's make one more copy of this, and let's call this second. All right, so we have two anchor tags. So this is first and this is second. So this is the second one nested inside h2. The only difference is id. So how do we select it? So now I'm going to talk about filtering. So how to do filtering? So there are two ways to do filtering. The first way is using indexing. So indexing is very similar. What we need to do is we need to write an XPath which returns two anchor tags, and we can consider this as first, and this can be taken as second. So let's write that. So we will look for all the h2. Inside that we will look for all the a, and we are looking only for direct children. We are not looking for all the descendants. So we are not looking for grandchild or great grandchild. Now what we can do is we can use square brackets and write 1 to select the first element. We can write 2 to select the second element. A note here, in XPath indexing begins with 1. It does not begin with 1. In so it does not begin with 0, right? In XPath indexing, I'm just going to write it in the message box. Indexing begins with 1. Okay, so this is very different than most of the programming languages. Unless you have worked with VBA, this is where the indexing begins with 1. Otherwise, almost every language, the indexing begins with 0. But XPath, again, the indexing begins at 1. So if you have been writing some code, you become so used to, um, writing the code where indexing is 0 for the first element, it's 1 here. So this is the first way. So actually, I need to probably change my keyboard shortcut. So whenever I mute and unmute, if my focus is here, I jump to the source code. So yeah, I'm also learning a lot of things and it's fun actually. All right. So this is one way, using the indexes, right? Now, the second way is using specific. In fact, even before that, let's talk about. Remember that when I talked about this H2 and A, these are called element nodes. And this href and this ID and this class, these are called as attribute nodes. So they are still node. So what we are doing here is we are filtering. Whenever you use square brackets, you use some kind of filtering. But after that, what you can do is you can put slash, all right? And let's put slash, and then we can call either the text function to get the text, or if you want the ID, you can use @ID. So this will give you the ID of the first element. And now let's do something fun. So what I'm going to do is, I know that the ID is first in this case, right? So what I'm going to do is, the second way of selecting is inside square brackets. I'm putting a filter that my ID is first, and it should be in quotes. So this first is in quotes, and it should be exact. Hello Heather. So it should be exact match. Again, remember that whatever we are writing inside square brackets is just for filtering. What you are getting in return is still only this element. So what you are getting is anchor. You are not getting anything other than anchor, right? So wherever ID is first, it has to be exact match, then only it will return. For example, if we have two classes here, anchor, blue, I'm just putting some class names, anchor blue here. So if I write class equal to anchor, so instead of @ID, I'm writing @ and class equal to anchor. That is not going to work because the attribute is not exactly anchor, it is anchor blue. So if you copy and exactly paste it like it, it will work. So here there is no result. Here now you can see that there are two results. And if I remove this, and I have to do something so that JavaScript executes. And now you can see that we are getting a match. So this is something you need to remember, that it has to be exact match. If there are two spaces here, then this will not work. You have to put two spaces. So sometimes, the person, whoever is writing the code for the HTML and whatever site is there, if he has accidentally put two spaces, then you also have to put two spaces. So personally, what I do is, let's say I'm looking for anchor tags which contain this specific class. Am I speaking too fast? Can you let me know in the comments? Do you want me to slow down a little bit? So I'll just assume that my speed is okay. So anyway, so what I do personally is if I have to search for anchor tag and use this class, I will actually copy this and write my selector like this. Okay, square brackets. I know that I have to write an attribute, so I will start with @ and just paste it. So this is the safe way of working with. All right, thank you, Heather. So this is the safe way, just copy paste. Now this was about the filtering basis on the basis of the attribute values, right? Now you just see that I did something. So what I did is I removed @ equal to something. So what I've left here is //anchor @class. So what it means is go and find all the anchor tags inside this document which contain one class attribute. What is the value of that class attribute doesn't matter. Just get me all the anchor which contain some one class attribute. The attribute value does not matter. So this is another way of filtering. Then what if you want to find this particular based on this text, let's say this text. So what you can do is, how do we extract this value? So let me show it in a notepad probably. So if I want to get this value, right, this value, how will I get it? Using the text function, right? So using a/text, so this will return this text. So I can use exactly this thing. So copy this entire thing, and instead of @class, I'm going to call the text method equal to, in double quotes, paste it completely. Again, remember that if you are using equal to, you have to be very specific. Even if you have one more space, it will not work. Now what is the answer to that? Contains function. So we'll come to that later. Now there are a few more things. All right, let's talk about contains method. That is a good one. So what if you want to look for only this part? Only this part. You want to look for something which is just a second one. So what you can do is, inside these square brackets, you can write one function, and this function is contains, right? So this contains will take two parameters. Number one, what you're looking for. So this is the text that you need to write here, and then you have to write how you are going to get it. Are you looking for something inside the text, or are you looking for something inside, let's say, class? Anything like that, you write it and then you put it in square brackets. So what we are going to do here is, inside square brackets, I'm going to write contains. Okay, always write in pieces, and then you can join those pieces. Put comma, and what are you going to look for? Okay, so let's say I'm going to look for second one, and where can I find it? I can find it in text, or I actually said it the other way around. Go and look for text, and then if it has, I completely that's the difference between teaching and actually writing the code. When I write the code, I know that this is how I have to write. Anyway, so the first argument is where do you want to look for, and secondly, the second argument is what you're looking for. So this will help you get the exact match and partial match both. So you can put everything here, it will work. Or even if it is a partial one, it will work. And if there are more than one matches, it will give you more than one matches. So this is the useful function contains. Now let's talk about a few more interesting functions. So in fact, I'm thinking about, let's talk about axis. Okay. So what is axis in XPath? So at the beginning, I talked about that this is the HTML element. Head is child of HTML. Title is child of head, and descendant of HTML. So because the root node is HTML, everything, all this complete document, all the elements are descendant, right? So you have to understand two words, ancestor and descendant. So this is something, these are going to be two useful terminology which you are going to use a lot. So you need to know what is descendant, what is ancestor, what is child. So these three things. So for example, this anchor tag is child of div. It is not child of h2, but it is descendant of h2. Now how it will be useful? So there are certain functions. For example, if I look for h2, all right, and then now see what I'm doing here. I'm going to write descendant and then double colon. I'm looking for specific double colon, and if I just use star, it will go and look for all the descendants. Now the important thing to note here is it's going to return all the elements which are inside h2, right? So this anchor tag is being returned two times. Why it is being returned two times? Because the first time it is returning div, and the second time it is returning a. So because we have used star, so star is a wildcard, and that's why it is returning all the descendant. If I'm looking for something specific, let's say if I'm looking for only the div, so what I can do is instead of star, I can use div. So star for anything or a for anchor tag. I can use this trick in a lot of places. For example, if I'm looking for, let's say, any element, okay, let me delete everything. Look for any element which contains this class. So any element for star inside square brackets @ class equal to anchor. So even if this class anchor is applied to, let's say, this paragraph, it will go and return it. So any element which contains this class, go and return it. So this will be specifically useful when you want a list of elements which are different. So here this is anchor, here this is paragraph, and then let's say you want the text inside these elements, so you can simply call text, and you have this text and this text, right? So this is how you can use the star, and the other thing that we discussed was the descendants. I'm just going back. So this is descendant. And now let's so similarly, like instead of descend, okay, let's talk about children also. So this is another function. So child, if you look for child, it will only return immediate child. So here inside a we have this this and this, but what is being returned here is only 2. But it's not very useful actually. I don't use it, you can just write /a and it will return only the child, but still it's good to know. Then what we can do is there are a few more tricks that we can do. So let's say that let's leave it for just a moment. I want to show you one more thing. When we talked about indexing, we saw that we can access these anchor tags. If we don't write anything in square brackets, it will return all anchor tags. Inside square brackets, we can say 2 and it will return 2. But sometimes there will be cases when you just want to get the last one and whatever it is. And in fact, if you have seen my NFL video, there is one instance where I wanted to get to the last one. So in that case, what you can do is you can make use of last function. So what this last function will do is it will go and look for only the last one. All right. So it will look for all the anchor tags and it is going to look for wherever there are. Why it is behaving like that? I'm doing something stupid here. I'll think about it. What I'm doing. So last -1 is returning this as expected. Last -2. So what is this last? So no return, no result here. Anyway, so let's talk about last as well. There are few more tricks that we can use. For example, let's say that sometimes you will see this data attribute. So data, quantity, these custom attributes which are not part of standard HTML, but in the new one, let's say that you have something like this: data quantity equal to 5, or yeah, something like that. And what if you're looking for this kind of anchor tag? And this kind of example actually you will find in Amazon when you're looking for ASINs. Anyway, so if you're looking for this kind of data quantity, okay, let's create 2, and here data quantity is 4, and here the data quantity is 3. Everything else is same. So what if you want to look for this one? It should be simple, right? /a, then you write the name of this data quantity. So inside square brackets we are doing filtering. So a dynamic site scraping, actually I was considering one a video about dynamic. I had to choose between one of these two videos. So I had to choose between XPath and dynamic site for today. I chose this because I don't think XPath can be covered in one single video. This topic is so huge, and today I'm mostly showing you the theory, but once you see the practical you will understand much more. So I'll go into the practicals, but yeah, we will do dynamic site scraping a bit more. If you have suggestions for dynamic site scraping specific URLs, I'm open to suggestions. But when I choose the URLs, I have to be little bit selective because I have to look at their terms and condition. And for example, I have no plans of scraping Facebook or anything like that because they have very rigid laws about scraping. So that I'm not going to touch here on YouTube. No, I'm not going to scrap YouTube. That is also something which I have received one request that so no, YouTube provides API. So wherever you have API, you should use API. So API is the proper way. Whenever a site is providing you API, it's a clear indication that they want you to access only specific data, and that data is available in API. So that is the case with YouTube and Facebook. So no, and that is not. I'm not going to cover Facebook, YouTube scraping in not here. So anyway, so coming back to data quantity, so you can select like that, right? So you can just say data quantity equals to 4. So what am I doing wrong? Saying invalid XML. Did it say invalid XML? Okay, the XML is invalid. This is the problem. All right. So this particular parser is very rigid about, um, you know, this should be a string value. So strictly speaking, XML has to be inside double quotes. XML attribute values are, they have to be inside double quotes. So that's why this site was not allowing us. But even if it is not in double quotes, we can probably get away with this. If it is not accepting in double quotes, then I don't think this will work. Data quantity greater than 3. It is working fine. So this is what I wanted to show actually, that instead of equals, you can use greater than, less than, or not equal to, or anything of that sort. For example, here I have put the filter that the data quantity should be greater than 3. So greater than 3 is true only for these two elements, and that is the result that we have received. So similarly, we can use not equal to 3, and it will, yeah, now let's say not equal to 5. So it will give us 4 and 3. So we can use all these operators. And what else? Yeah, we can use greater than, equal to 3. So this will include 3, right? So we can use all these normal operators. Now we can also use AND operator to combine, to check more than one attributes. Let's say that, let's make one more copy, copy, and this time instead of anchor, let's say blue. Data quantity 3. So this is blue 3. Now what if you want to select data quantity equal to 3? In that case, let's see what will happen. So we have two results, but now what we want to look for is this second anchor tag. So here we can see that the class is different. So what we can do is we can write very simple and class equal to blue, and we have nothing because I did not add at the rate. So because whenever you're looking for any attribute, you have to start with at the rate. See, now we are getting only one result. So data quantity equals 3 and class equal to blue. We can select it like that. We can use OR operator, right? So AND and OR, both of them can be used. So this is another example. Now you may notice that the casing, the spacing is not a big deal here. Like for example, here I have left a space, here I have left a space, but typically if you want your code to be readable, try to, remove all those spaces and keep it as much clean as possible. So this will help you in longer run. If you're working with CSS selectors, CSS selector, the space will change entire selector. So it's normally a good habit to not put spaces. Now, if you're working with Scrapy or Beautiful Soup or any other tool which supports CSS selector, XPath in Selenium and everything, so they support CSS, XPath. Does Beautiful Soup support CSS? Yes, it does. But it doesn't support XPath. Yeah, Beautiful Soup does not support XPath. So that's why if you're working on web scraping, I usually recommend that you learn CSS selector first and then you go into XPath. Because there is one thing in XPath that you cannot do with CSS, that is traveling up and down. So going to parent and going to child and descendants, that you cannot do. That reminds me of one more useful function. Let's delete these things so that it's small. All right. So I'm going to remove this as well. I just want this file to be a little bit smaller, and I want to create one artificial okay. First Google and second Google. All right. So now this one is very simple scenario, but practically you will find it useful in more complex scenarios. So what I'm going to do here is we need to find this anchor tag and this anchor tag. So this is easy, right? If you just look for a href equal to Google, you should be able to find both these, right? I should not set this Google Assistant is irritating. Sometimes triggers when I don't want it to trigger. So what we are going to do is if we write //a, it's going to return all the anchor tags. And if I can just write href equal to Google, it is going to return both. But what if I want to select only this one? So in this particular case, I know that okay, let's make it complicated. So this one is also inside h2. Okay, so you can't use h2 nesting as well. So how will you select this? So see, we cannot use h2 because this will also select both the anchor tags. We cannot directly use anchor tag and select, because there is only one thing. So this is one complex scenario. How will you select this? This is body h2 anchor tag. This is body h2 anchor tag. Now the answer is you don't look for this, you look for this first because this is easier to locate, right? So what you do is you look for this ID. So you found it. Perfect. Now what you need to do? You need to find this one. Now if it was a child, you would have written /a, but it is not a child. It's a brother or sister or whatever you want to call it, and the proper word is sibling. So sibling is whether it is brother or sister, it's sibling. So what we are going to do is we are going to write following sibling. Oops, following dash sibling. So this is where I always make mistake. And then double colon and then star for every sibling or a for only anchor tag. Now look at this very carefully. This is something very useful which I have found useful in a lot of scenarios, and I'll give you scenario as well. So what I'm doing here is my ultimate aim is to get to this anchor tag, but finding this anchor tag is impossible in one go because these two exactly have the both markup and the text which is contained inside is different, but I don't know that, right? I'm writing a web scraping program and I don't know what is that, so I want to read that. So I cannot filter based on text. So what I'm doing here is I'm looking for this anchor tag and then I'm looking for the following sibling, which is this. And just keep in mind that if you have more than one, you are going to get all of them. So then what you can do is you can customize it further by writing something like this so that you get only the first one, or you can do something like this to get the second one. I want you to take a moment and see how we are getting to this one. Now this is something very useful when you are working with the tables, and there will be many sites which are using table to display label and the data. So they will have a label, for example, they will have first name, and you have to extract the value of first name, and you cannot reach the first name. So what you do is you look for first name and then you look for the following sibling. So the example that I'm explaining is not very understandable, I understand. So but still, if you can get to one element, you can get to the next one. So this is something you can do in CSS, but going up the tree, which is finding this, let's do one more thing. What if I find two? What if I want to find this one? Now this is going to be a little bit more complex, but let's do this. This is going to be a little bit fun. So we found this one. So we have found this one. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going one level up. Now this is something you cannot do using CSS selector. And how do you go one level up? Just put dot dot. You don't have to, use anything more complex. Just use dot dot and it will go one level up. So you can go, you can use the ancestor operator, but I mean, it's in fact, I don't recall when I had to use ancestor operator, because a dot dot will do the same thing. So dot dot will take you to h2. Then you will look for the siblings. So following sibling, which sibling you are looking for? You are looking for h2. So now you have reached here, and then you go for this anchor tag. So now you have reached here. Now this one is again little bit complicated but very useful. So if you want me to explain it again, this ID first is this one. When I'm writing dot dot, it goes up here. Then I'm going to following sibling. So I'm looking for sibling of h2. So the sibling of h2 is this one. I put h2 here specifically. If I put star, it will not change anything in this case, because this is anyway h2. If there was, let's say, let's make it more complicated. If there is a div here, let's say this is a div, all right, and let's put number 3 here, and let's put number 4 here, just for readability. So now what is happening? Because we have written following sibling star, so it came to this h2. Now div and h2 both are sibling and both contain this anchor tag. So that's why we have two. If you want to look for only div, we can, instead of star, we can write div. If you want to look only for h2, we can be specific and write h2. So I think all this information should be sufficient to get you started with all these things. So let's work on some practical things now. So this is the time when we are going to look for some specific information. We'll create some XPaths. Now open this XPath Stack Overflow scrapy page. Now what we want to select all the questions, right? So right click, inspect. Now you should be on the elements one, elements tag. If you're on elements, okay, so if you're on elements, by the way, side note, um, what's the difference in examining in the elements versus control U and looking at the source? So this source is exactly what came in this page. And this one is if there was any JavaScript or anything which modified the DOM, which is the document object model, or in other words, the HTML which is actually displayed by the browser. So what you see here is modified HTML, and what you see here is the actual HTML which was sent by the server, excluding JavaScript and all those changes. Anyway, so in our case, so just right click and click on inspect. And I've probably zoomed in too much, so yeah. So what if we look for all anchor tags? So here we can actually build right inside Chrome Developer Toolbox. We can build our XML XPaths and we can test it. So Control F, and now you can see that this zoom window, this window is opened right here. Okay, so this find window that you see here is opened inside this elements tag. So inside Chrome, when you have developer toolbox, there will be multiple places where this find window can open. So if your cursor is here, if your focus is here, this find window, and if you press Ctrl F, so this will open here, right here, right? But if your focus is on elements tag, elements tab, and if you press Ctrl F, here it will open in the bottom, right? And if you are on, let's say, network, and if you press Ctrl F, it will open here. So this is where it is going to open. So these are all different places where you will have your find window open. All right, so let's come back to elements and let's create the XPath. Now I hope it is readable. I've zoomed in quite a lot. So if we write /A, what you can see here is there is one more thing that you need to remember, that it will do XPath evaluation and it will also look for the exact text. So I have written /A, and you can see the element which it has selected here, and this one is selected because there is /A right here, right? So here you can see that this is /A, and that's why this was selected, but it won't be evaluated when you're writing XPath. So let's look for next one. So this is not really useful, right? It is selecting a lot of things which are not important. So we need to fine tune it a little bit more. Again, right click inspect, or you can use this to drag it here. So you can see that this is inside H3. So the next thing that you can try is probably H3 and /A. So now we can see that there are 17. Here you can probably see that this is 17 total results which it has created. So H3/A is 17. Now which one it is? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, press these small arrows right here. Let me scroll it up. So right now, see, I'm working on a very small resolution so that everything is very readable. So usually you won't have very small resolution like this. You won't have everything zoomed up, zoomed out, or zoomed in actually like this. So it should be easier in general. So The moment you press these, everything will be highlighted on both sides. So here it is highlighted here. So in fact, it is highlighted here on this side, right? So here it is highlighted and it is highlighted here as well. So both on the page and in the source, everything is highlighted. But do we have exactly 17 questions? So the trick is, when you look here, so right now you can see that this is 6 of 17. So what I'll do is I'll go and look for where is the first one. So this is 3. Now where is this? I can't see it. So that means the first two, it is selecting few extra things which are not part of my actual one. So from starting from 3, so this is not the correct selector. So what I'll do now, I will take this div and class summary. So let's start from here. I'm going to copy everything. Now this is where I'm showing you the shortcut to create the selector quickly. So Control F, and this time starting with /* and I'm directly putting a filter. And remember that I copied this class and class is an attribute. So now I'm writing this attribute. So inside summary, I'm looking for all the anchor tag. If I'm looking for all the anchor tag inside summary, I will use /A. So now the count is 93. So now 93 is too much. That means it is selecting anchor tags which are not really the questions. So what I need to do is I need to go H3 and then A. So no /s here, H3 and then A. See, now I'm getting 15. So let's verify that this is actually 15. Yeah, this is the first question. This is the first question. First question, second, and I don't have to go through all of them. What I can do is I can actually, when I'm on one and if I say search previous, it will jump to the last result. That's it. I've created the selector. So inside anchor tag, I directly have the complete question. So if I have to extract the question, I can say text, and then this will give me exactly the text of the question. If you want to, let me clear everything. So if you want to experiment in the console, you can write a $X and inside single bracket, inside quotes, and just paste in, and you can then see what exactly it has selected. So now, unless you are familiar with JavaScript, this may seem little bit too much, but you can see that this node value is how can I deploy code and all of that. So this is what we are getting exactly. So this console thing is something optional. If you're already familiar with console, then only go and try it. Otherwise, if you can get this much, this is sufficient. So now, assuming that you're working with Scrapy, so let me open a Scrapy shell here. Okay. So Scrapy shell will allow me to quickly verify that I'm building the correct selector or not. So what I've done is I've copied this URL and I'm going to call the fetch method. And in case you are wondering how I'm getting this in and out, so this is because of IPython. So you can do pip install IPython and you will have this wonderful console. Now what I'll do is I'll copy this XPath and let me verify. How do I verify? In Scrapy, if you are not using Scrapy and you're still watching this video, it doesn't matter. You can try it on your shell. So what I've done is I've written response.xpath and then this complete XPath. And there we have it, all the questions. So our selector is perfectly fine. So this is one way. Now we can look at few more examples. So let's try to select this title. So let's right click, inspect, and let's see. I'm going to click on this select element and click here. Now this time it is a p tag, but it has a class which looks like can be used. So let's try that. So control F, and it already came here. So what I have to do is slash slash, open the square bracket, close the square bracket, and before class put @ and star. Okay, so now we were lucky, and in fact this site is actually made for practicing scrapping, so this will be very straightforward case. So now you can get just like that, you can get exactly this. Or let's look for all the h1 tag. So this one has only one, so you get h1 tag. And what else can we get from this page? Now let me show you one very useful function. So to show that function, let me find something. So which one are we selecting here? Second Google 4. Let's see what it gives. Okay, it's not useful here. Let me take this HTML and put it in Notepad. I'll try to use somewhere as what I've done is I've opened like that test.html, and this is the same HTML that we have been working with. And let me try if it can fetch directly. I've never tried actually like that, but I think it should work. Response.text, fine. So I think I can show you what I wanted to show. So this selector that we created earlier, this selector, let's see what it gives. So response dot XPath, and this is the selector that we created. So now what we have here is this RN. These are line breaks, right? So because I'm working on Windows and I added line break, so it added \r\n. So if you are, this file was created not on Windows but Linux or Mac or something, you will only see one of these characters. So basically what we want to do is, and then there is this empty space, and what we want to do is whenever we want to extract this information, we want to clean this up. So what you can do is you can use one very useful function called normalize space. So this normalize space function, you can write it very much like that. Let me open something like this. So you can simply write normalize dash space, and then you can pass in anything that you want. So if you are looking for a tag, okay, which contains, let's say, @class equals normalize space anchor. In this case, what will happen if we write like this, that if this element is containing, even if it is containing space before or after, okay, only spaces before and after, it will clean this up and it will match perfectly. Okay, so actually in normalized space I have to write not here but here, because this function is going to get this @class is going to get the actual class, and that we are going to call normalized space. If it is too much to understand at this point, just see once use which is going to be useful. So on this function, what we are going to do is I'm going to zoom this and let's see if it is useful. No, zooming it, it's not helping. So let's leave it like that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to call a normalize space and opening bracket and closing bracket just before where this line ends. So this entire expression I have surrounded in normalized space, and what you get is clean text. It has stripped down content before and after. But if there is some, it has cleaned up all the new line character, it will clean up tab character, it will clean up spaces only at the beginning and at the end. So this can be something useful. If there is any specific space inside that, it will not clear. It will only, it works very much like trim or strip, only beginning and end it will clear. Now here is my trick. The trick is, if you are using normalized space, you don't have to call text and you can directly get your result. Now this will be useful. So now this normalized space, what you can do is you can actually just put anywhere and you will get all the data cleaned up. So this trick is something which is going to be very useful. Normalized space, apart from the normal use, this is a sort of hack, but it works. So I think this should be enough for today. We can do a follow-up session and look at more practical examples. And probably I'll record a video giving you the summary, and I can share a cheat sheet so where you can quickly look at whatever you want to have. Now at this point of time, if you have any specific sites which you want me to look at, and if there is any specific XPath, this will be a good time.